And guest one, yo, Bitcoin Meister.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm multitasking master.
Oh, man.
You hear me all right? I'm good?
Yeah, I can hear you a treat. Hang on, I got the top of your head cut off. That's all right. Listen, thanks for jumping on. Let's waffle. Let's talk some Bitcoin. What's going on in your world right now? I understand you're over on the West Coast.
Pound that freaking open. I'm alive, baby.
Get in there.
This is pretty spur of the moment, isn't it? I'm dealing. Yesterday, I actually talked with some Africans on a very special Twitter space, and I taped it. We were talking about Africa and Bitcoin, and it's, I love to see what people over the world are thinking. And I got some really academic type of questions, theoretical questions. We're just asking about the technical aspects of Bitcoin, what could go wrong. And they brought up criticisms prominent people have mentioned lately. I'm like, dudes, either you walk the walk or you talk the talk. It's talking the talk when you're just like trying to study every academic aspect of Bitcoin, but you never buy it. And you find all these problems with it, and you're worried about what policymakers are going to do with Bitcoin. And I get, these guys were smart guys. They were worried about the policymakers of the world, how they're going to deal with it with their own fiat currencies. I'm like, don't worry about that. Just do it, baby. Like Michael Jordan, right? Just buy the darn stuff. So we get there's a certain level of complexity worship out there. People are very impressed when people break down the all the technical and it's great. Bitcoin is complex, but don't overcomplicate matters. So many people in this day and age, they want to know every single little thing about it before they buy it. And guess what? They're never going to find out every single thing. They're never going to be satisfied, and they're just going to end up having fun staying poor. That's about it.
It's an interesting thing. I always say, while most are studying the roots, others are picking the fruit.
That's definitely a good way of saying it. Pick the darn fruit, dude, and don't keep on coming up with these excuses about studying the roots. The roots are freaking boring, man.
I can't vouch for other Bitcoiners. All I know from my own personal point of view is you get a vibe. Anything in life you get a vibe about, and for me, I got the vibe that Bitcoin was right and jumped in, and I learned afterwards. I wanted to get some skin in the game and then learn as I went along. And to be honest with you, as it has stood me in good stead, it's never let me down. And I've gone through 62 years on this earth, going with a gut feeling, doing a little bit of basic research, and then jumping in. And there's a few mistakes I have made for sure, but most of them have stood me in good stead. And by golly, I cannot believe I'm past the 210,000 blocks. I'm over 4 years in Bitcoin. I've done a full cycle, people. And only when you've done a full cycle do you really get Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's the biggest lesson out there. Keep it real simple. Half these people that want to know about all these complexities of the Lightning Network or whatever, they don't even know about the 210,000 blocks. And you got to make it through it too. I'm sure you're getting these questions too. Just people saying, "Are we in a bear market again? Oh, woe is me. How much lower can it go?" God, if you just were in this for 4 years already, you would have already seen it. Yeah. It's so repetitive.
Yeah.
It's deja vu all over again. Deja vu all over again.
Change your name. There you go. It is. And I always say to people, look, if you're looking to jump into something and make a fortune tomorrow, Bitcoin is just not right for you. It really is not. You need to study a bit, and then you need to get some Bitcoin and learn. For me, listen, you really understand some of the technicals. Yeah, run BTC. 21 million club, baby! Hey, listen, Bitcoin Meister and UK Bitcoin Master having a bit of a blast. Fantastic. Love it. Pound that like button, everyone. For me, yeah. I now know that, okay, so I was watching Peter McCormack and Willy Woo earlier, and Willy Woo was saying that, this is nothing like anything we've seen before, and to think that everything's going to stay the same, it's going to look different. And he said, do your own research. You've got to be prepared to lose it. It might not pan out how you want it to pan out. If you're a trader, you are going to totally and utterly get wrecked. So for me, it is learn that there is going to be a halving. Then learn that in the past, there's been a big pump the year afterwards. Then, in the past, there's been a couple of years Bitcoin crypto winter, as I call it. And then there's another halving. And then another pump. And it's this cycle that goes round and round and round. And you've got to live through all of it. Otherwise, you don't experience all the emotions. People say to me, it's all right for you. Yeah, you're all positive because Bitcoin's up. What were you like in the bear markets? I said, go back through my archives and look at all my videos from 2018 and 2019 and bring one video to me where I was bearish. Just one. You will not find one.
Exactly. And keep in mind, and you say this too, just treat it as a freaking savings account too. I mean, most people have forgotten what a savings account is, but you don't touch it during a 4-year cycle. Your savings account, of course not. And yes, thank you for changing my name, Lord whatever. That was funny. You're multitasking, just like you said. You're multitasking, and I wore this shirt especially because I know you have this exact same shirt too. And
good job I weren't wearing it. Good job I weren't wearing it. We'd have been twins.
Yeah. No. I saw what you were wearing, but I wanted to wear what you had, but not what you were wearing. But I got to tell everybody here, I live the freaking in motion life. All right. I'm in San Diego right now. So I got up at a reasonable time, 8:30 in the morning, but that's just what it's 1.5 hours before Brian's show starts. So I set everything up. I brushed my teeth a little bit and everything. And then all of a sudden this happens. I still haven't done. I mean, I'm like just 2 hours ago, I was in bed, but I'm alive. I'm just ready to get on this show and talk Bitcoin at any moment in time. You never know. I'm planning my whole day. No, I can just change it and talk Bitcoin. So be ready to do that, people. That's I don't know. That's a certain quality to have when you can just jump into anything at any moment.
You're my savior. You're my savior, actually, because I had no show notes prepared, and I'm thinking to myself, right, I've got to try and think of something to talk about instead of just waffling.
Do you remember? You mentioned Peter McCormick. Do you remember in December of 2018 when you appeared with Peter McCormick on my show?
I didn't know who he was.
It was right around Christmas. It was right around Christmas, and you both were talking about Christmas in Britain and everything. It was very, very. It's in the archives. It's linked to below. I forgot who the third person. There was someone else that was on that day too. I forgot it now.
I was on with Chris Bleck. I was on with Chris Bleck and a guy called Russ to start with on your first show, and then it was Peter McCormack, myself, and I can't think who the other one was. But I did not know.
Who was the third guy?
I did not know who Peter McCormack was. I did not have a clue. I can't even tell you. I know his podcast is huge right now, but I didn't know if he was that big 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe he was, but
he wasn't. Back then, he was known for, he was just ramping up the podcast. And what his gimmick was, and it was a good gimmick, is that earlier in the bull market, he thought he was a freaking genius because he made like $1 million in altcoins trading. And then he lost it all. And he like owed money to the government. I mean, it was such a bad situation. He was negative. So that's the character he created. I mean, that really happened to him. But from there, he built up a podcast where he was going to explain Bitcoin and everything based on his own mistakes. And we talked about that on the show. That was something that I brought. Tell your story about how you lost all this money, because I'm into people. I thought, people can say what they want to say about the dude. I don't know if he even talks about that situation anymore. But most people that are traders say how great they did and how much of a genius they think they are. But he told the truth. He said, I was a trader. I thought I was a genius. I was a moron because I ended up in debt. And now I'm doing this podcast and I'm talking, and he's done well from himself, just doing Bitcoin stuff, and he's definitely an interesting character to say the least. But you can see him early on, but he had the podcast then and everything, but he was kind of known for, it was a little bit different back then, a little bit different.
Yeah, no, really interesting. I didn't have a clue who the heck he was, to be honest with you. And it's really interesting because I'm sort of observing the space. And how do I explain this? I'm not very good at explaining things, but I always say that a Bitcoiner, a true Bitcoiner, is that the right terminology? Just walks a steady line. But then you've got these other Bitcoiners that zigzag, and they're off in one direction, then they're back onto Bitcoin again, then they're off in another direction again. And I just go in search of those hardened Bitcoiners that you just know they are buying, they are holding, and stuff the rest of it.
Yeah, you talk about, I think that's a really great observation with what is a hardened Bitcoiner. And I think you could define a hardened Bitcoiner as a guy, a public persona, someone that's out in the public who, or not, maybe he isn't even that public, but doesn't freaking panic at every freaking price drop. Yep. There are creators out there. They're not fans of altcoins per se, but every darn time that there's a price drop, are we in a bear market? They use this fear nonsense, and it's sickening. And they can do what they want to do, but that really adds like a negative vibe to the entire space. And I think some of these guys should know better, that they are just hyping up situation. Is China really going to make a difference this time? Is the United States going to make it illegal? No, they're not. We've lived through this before. You've lived through this before, and just be a hardened individual. Don't be scared and scream about every single little darn thing that happens, because you've seen. Now, some of the guys, obviously, they're new. They really are scared. There's no reason to be scared, but your terminology right there. Just be a hardened freaking Bitcoiner. Be ready to get a slap in the face and be like, I've experienced that before. Keep on slapping me, baby. I can take it. Pound that freaking like button. Pound that freaking face with your open hand slap, because I know the China stuff is nonsense, and it passes like a freaking horrible kidney stone. God forbid anybody have a horrible kidney stone. But I know some of the men out there, I've heard these stories. It's like it's worse than having a baby or something like that. Anyway, that's a beyond Bitcoin right now. Don't drink soda.
Well, it's really interesting, because when I first got into Bitcoin in May 2017, I found you and I found Andreas Antonopoulos. And Andreas is great. He's absolutely superb, but he was not talking my language. I'm a regular dude, okay? And I found your channel and I thought, this guy is talking my language. He's telling it straight. He's not full of hype and hot air. He's just putting it out there. And it was really interesting, because a couple of months afterwards, as I got into Bitcoin, I started to hear, and I'm talking to you people that are new right now, or even watching this in the future, I started to hear about Segwit. I started to hear about the Bcash debacle that was starting to unfold. And I'm telling you seriously, I don't think if I'd have found your channel, I wouldn't have been as hardened to it and let it, sort of wash off my back, if you like, as well as I did, because I found your channel. Now, normally when I get into something, I make a decision and nothing sways me either way. And I've said this before on my show, I either moon with the ship or I die with the ship. There's sort of no middle ground. I guess a bit like Jack Mallers, I'm going to die on this hill type of mentality. And sometimes that's not really the best mentality to have. Sometimes you have to evaluate and then you have to adjust accordingly. But I can't be like that, Adam. I'm either in or I'm out. There is no middle ground with me. What you see, you say it all the time. What you see is what you get. A load of people met you in Miami and you said to them, you're going to see the same person, off the Richter scale with energy levels as you see on the shows. I'm the same. Ask my wife. She's in the chat. She calls me the flipping Energizer Bunny.
Dude, keep going and going and going. You're in motion. That Energizer Bunny is constantly in motion. Yeah, the die on this hill thing. Very, very interesting point about Jack Mallers, and I think he is a target. I gotta say that he has really put himself out there. He's got this company and he's dealing with El Salvador. It's intertwined. So he is acting as a shield for Bitcoin. I'm telling you people right now, you don't have to be you don't have to sacrifice your freaking life for Bitcoin. And he's on the road to sacrificing his freaking life for Bitcoin. I mean, he's really, it's not a religion, and you could be hardcore about it without sacrificing your life. And it's not about, so he's a real young guy. And he's got a long life to live. So I would just, I would just tell him, be careful. He's got to be a little careful out there, because he is, being a human being, you're an attack vector right there. They can physically grab you. It's not like with Bitcoin that can't be stopped. A human being can be stopped. So you got to be a little careful what you're doing out there, and just think about, am I going down a road where I'm sacrificing myself for this greater good that I don't have to sacrifice myself for? Bitcoin doesn't care about people sacrificing for it. I know that sounds kind of mean, but it doesn't. And the greater good will fix it, will work itself out fine. So I know that there's a lot of people that are like, well, I'm doing this for the betterment of Bitcoin. Take care of yourself, people, first. Don't get yourself physically ill because of Bitcoin. I mean, you brought up Andreas, by the way, talking about, he said the first time he got into Bitcoin, I mean, he locked himself in his room, for like 48 hours or something, and wasn't eating. And I mean, you can really become obsessed with it. And on one level, that's great to understand that this is the future of the world, but don't make it your religion. I would say, maybe Jack has made it his religion. He's a passionate man. I appreciate passion. I will say that I appreciate your passion, but there comes a certain point when you better be careful out there and not sacrifice.
I do tend to agree with you. Unfortunately, you are playing into my lovely wife's hands, because she feels that when you accumulate Bitcoin, perhaps we shouldn't be putting ourselves out there. But and I agree, that Jack's got to be careful. But there's also an element of this, and this is taking it to the extreme. But if you believe in a cause, you don't want to die for the cause. We don't need martyrs today. But surely some of us do have to put ourselves out there, even if that maybe slightly, heightens the risk. Now, for me personally, with the Bitcoin I've got, I don't personally believe anybody wants to come and beat my door down. I don't believe they want to. I mean, yes, sure, they want to try and hack you if they can, and I'm sort of quite mindful of my privacy. I'm constantly looking to stay as private as I possibly can. But surely, we have to get out there, some of us, and beat the drum. Otherwise, surely the state, or the regular banks and everything else, they're going to win. Surely, give me your take on that.
Yes, speak up for what you believe in. No matter if it's Bitcoin or if it's something else that's controversial. Because if you speak up, you're speaking for like the 90% or 99% of the people that can't speak up. That's different than sacrificing yourself. It's a risk. The Africans were asking me, what are some of the risks of Bitcoin? And what they wanted me to give technical stuff. And I said, one of the risks is if you make yourself public, then people know, I mean, you're somewhat of a target.
Yeah.
And you're going to be there's no turning that back. If your government becomes authoritarian and you've already made yourself public 2 years ago, you can't erase that. You're on a list. You already, but that's a small risk. Now, that's not really poking the tiger exactly. That's not, speaking the truth is not poking the tiger. Like, I am starting a company that's transferring money that needs a license that might not have a license, and I'm dealing with a country that is not in good graces of the country that I'm, there's different levels you could take it to. So what I just said at the beginning of this little rant was speak the truth. Publicly speak. If you can publicly speak the truth, speak the truth. And that's not sacrificing your life. That's not that it's not over the long term. There could be some inconvenience, definitely. And but what's done is done. I made my first video in 2013. That was it. There's no reason to go like totally silent now. Now, eventually, you mentioned about, you're careful not to get hacked via the computer. That right now, a lot of people love to say, well, the Trezor sucks because if someone physically gets it and has all this special technology, they'll know how to get your private key off of it. Okay, that's true. But what most of the criminals out there are doing, they're sitting in their house in Asia or in Eastern Europe or wherever. They're picking their nose. They might be half naked, and they're just sending out a billion emails. They don't care who it's to, okay? Most of the emails they're sending it to are people that don't even know what Bitcoin is. But they're sending these ludicrous emails that say, send me your private key, or, with the ledger hack, they're sending the fake ledgers out now, as BTC Benny pointed out, as you pointed out. And so it's right now, the loss of your Bitcoin is going to come from a real bad mistake you make when you're on your freaking computer, okay? Yeah. So there are all these people that are worried about, but eventually, when we live in a world where many more people are familiar with Bitcoin, then criminals will actually know how to physically steal it. Right now, the common criminal, they don't know how to physically steal Bitcoin. No common criminal on this planet knows how to physically steal Bitcoin. The type of criminals that know how to steal Bitcoin are guys that live in basements, that are technical criminals, that are geeks, or hackers and stuff. Okay, so thank God we haven't gotten to the point where people are being jacked on the street and stuff. But one positive thing is if people start getting jacked on the street and actually have their Bitcoin physically stolen from them, then Bitcoin's going to be worth a lot more money because that many more people will understand it. I don't want to live in a world, though, where people are getting jacked on the street, though. But the world can be a nasty place, though. So yes, there's something to be said about the people who just put themselves out there. But then there's a whole new level above that of, sacrificing your life. You don't have to do that. There's a gradation, right there. There's a scale.
Yeah, I get it. I've got a question from our audience. People, if you want to ask a question, type in UK Bitcoin Master. My lovely wife is asking, what does Bitcoin Meister do in a typical day?
Well, of course, I wake up. I actually
I
hope so. That's fun. Well, I wake up. I do a teeny little workout type of thing real quick. I brush my teeth. So there's an initial very quick scraping of the tongue. And I pray, actually. I started doing that since the passing away of my father. There's some little things that certain Jewish people do, the more religious do in the morning. And then I just I'll get on the computer. Some days I'm like, I don't want to get on the computer now because I know I'm going to have to get on. But today I got on early because I knew UK Bitcoin Master was going to be on. Mondays and Thursdays, I definitely get on early for UK Bitcoin Master. I don't need a reminder; it's ingrained in me to
That's
do that.
The same as me.
I always that's part of my thing to always retweet. But depending on where I am, I might run in the morning. What ends up happening now, unfortunately, because I stay up too late, sometimes I have to take a nap in the middle of the day, and running usually happens after 5 p.m. when the ultraviolet level goes down. Here in San Diego, they get some pretty bad UV light, I was noticing. So, and I don't eat until after 7 p.m. My one meal of the day doesn't happen until after 7 p.m. But so much of the day is on, I'm answering DMs, I'm answering emails, just dealing with reading articles, reading Twitter. And it used to be prepping for that would all help me prep for my show. I don't do as many shows anymore because it's such a pain in the tuchlis. And but I do have all these notes written down, and I have all these projects that I want to get to. And since I'm in San Diego, I went to the expensive medical clinic. That's why I went to I came to San Diego. So I'm getting my test results back, and I'm gonna deal with some of the test results and stuff, and alter some parts of my life. I've already started altering some things. So I've been studying a lot of health stuff too during the day, And I do recommend, by the way, the experience was great at Health Nucleus up in San Diego. So if you have become wealthy, I do recommend you go there because you can learn some stuff that is surprising, and that you should know about. there's a lot of people that find out so I don't have any. My brain is totally all right, dudes. That's one of the things that I got back right away. Thank God. There's my brain is doing awesome. But there's some things I can, I look incredibly healthy and everything, but very thin. But there are some things I can improve upon. They're definitely, and I'm learning about them. All these, so many tests I got, and so many blood tests. They took so much blood from me, and going through the machine, I got to go through the MRI. I'd never been through one of those before. So I can see why people would be claustrophobic through that. But so the very good news, because everybody fears it a little bit, I think, in the back of their head, is that they got some brain cancer or something like that. And unfortunately, we had a Bitcoiner, the great Tor, he had brain cancer. He was a guy that I hung out with in California. So you never know what's going to happen. So that's one test result. So I am big into health, as everyone knows, and I'm getting a lot more information than I ever had before. So that's and then I try to go to sleep at a reasonable time, and I never go to sleep at a reasonable time, and that's something I have to do. I'm learning that from this entire health process. I got to get my 8 hours. The way I've been getting my 8 hours of sleep, it gets split up. So I just recommend everyone getting the straight 8 hours might be better. I can't prove that yet, but I think I might. I really need to focus more on that.
Well, I can tell you one thing. It is so easy not to switch off around Bitcoin. I sometimes just literally, I love being in the space. I love talking about Bitcoin, but sometimes I've just had enough and I just need to get away. I need to go out and do things like, I don't know, wash the car, do something, just turn the computer off or close Twitter down or do something. And it's almost like a bit of a Bitcoin cleanse for me because we're on the same wavelength here. And I'm going to back up something you were saying on your show. And that is, I don't think people understand, and my lovely wife will back this up, how many hours you put into researching to do a show. People think you just chuck them together an hour before, and that's not the case. I spend hours and hours digging and looking and trying to not go for the articles that are at the top of every single publication and just talk about them. I want to try and find articles that are, down the list nobody's talking about. And it's, I'm not an expert by any stretch, but I try. And because of that, it takes hours and hours of research just to put a 30-minute show together.
Yeah, it does. And to what you just said, to get the stories that no one else is talking about, you got to be on Twitter. Now, the good thing about all this, it's a pain in the butt to do. But man, does it strengthen your freaking hand. It really does. And you become a smarter person, and you really get intertwined with these people that are putting out information that is really makes you think. And it did, I'm talking about, tumors in your brain. It makes your brain stronger. It definitely makes, it doesn't get rid of tumors, unfortunately, but it does, it does make you, it makes you smarter. And that is a positive one can draw out of it. But it did become way too much for me. I couldn't do it every single day anymore. And I will say this, you say you just can't put a show together, a half hour beforehand. This is absolutely true. But I will say this, the This Week in Bitcoin show, that one I can do faster than anything. Really, that one, because I know the basic stories from the whole week, because I've been reading all the darn week. Okay, so I know, so I could prepare a This Week in Bitcoin show like within an hour. I could do it so fast. I could do it because the other guys are doing the talking. You're just asking them questions and stuff. So that's a little bit of a life hack. But when you're just doing a show by yourself, I mean, you got to have everything written out there. And what's the frustrating thing is that most people don't know the difference. They like, oh yeah, that's a great show. And it's just some guy with fancy sets and graphics. All he's doing is reading down CoinDesk. That doesn't take any preparation at all. So there just was a point, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do a show where I just read down CoinDesk. Okay,
same as that. Yeah, same as that.
But I'm not going to spend all this time, preparing for a show that's better. I'm just not going to do that anymore. It's not what. This is the other thing I want to say, and I think you can probably talk. Be happy in life, people. Be happy in life. You don't know when there is going to be a medical problem. You had a medical problem, a serious medical problem. You don't know. You don't know when it's going to all end one day. So make the most. Don't do the show for the heck. Just to continue the streak. I was doing the show to continue the streak, et cetera, et cetera. You got to go out there and have fun. Okay, have fun with your life. You don't know what you're going to discover. You don't know what's going to pop up. You only have one life like this on Earth. I mean, there's all sorts of we could get into philosophical things about if you come back, if you live after. But this life, the life where you pop out of your mom and you know who your mom is, you only get one of these. Okay, you only get one of these. Maybe you get reincarnated as something else. But this version is Adam Meister. I'm only getting one of Adam Meister who popped out of his mom the first time, and that's it. You just love it, live it, every moment of it. And don't sacrifice your life for some greater good, and where you end up where you're 80 years old. Like, why did I waste all my time on that? No regrets. No regrets is a lifestyle. And life can throw you up really nasty things sometimes, and you don't know why it's happening. So before that happens, make the most of it. I know this sounds like basic information for some people, but some people just repeat it without thinking about it. I mean, I think in the past I've repeated it without thinking about it. Sometimes you really need to take some time, do a cleanse from Bitcoin or the computer, and say, I'm going to have fun today. I'm going to try some new things. And I wanted to your lovely wife to ask that question. I rambled on about what I do during the day. Something I do every Friday. I pointed this out before. Since I was in college, I would call both grandmothers every Friday, okay? And then unfortunately, one of my grandmothers passed away my freshman year in college. But then my other grandmother lived until just September that just passed by. So I was on this huge streak of calling a grandma every single freaking Friday. And the last Friday, I called my grandma at the hospital, and she died a few hours later. But my mom was there too. So then the next Friday, I just called my mom, and the streak continued. So I call my mother every Friday, and that is something I love to do. Stay in touch with your family. So that talking about these streaks and everything, that is something that I must do. I must call grandma, which is now turned into I must call mom every Friday. So that's what Adam does every day. I just want to throw that out there too. That's something that's important to me.
I think it's very important.
Every Friday.
I think it's very important. I've lost both my parents. I miss them dreadfully. I can't get them back. At the end of the day, we're here for such a short period of time, aren't we? And I always say to people, if you believe in reincarnation, enjoy it the first time round in case you're wrong. Really, really important. Right, I want to.
That life, bud.
Let me give a shout out to this new person. S.A. Fexer says, at least I got on the live stream. Usually listen on the podcast in the van. Love it. Well, welcome to you. Great to have Wilco Delamar in the house as well. Adam, look, I've taken enough of your time. Is there anything you want to tell my audience before we pull this all together? And thanks for jumping on the show. Bitcoin related, give them some sound advice, please.
Don't have Ethereum derangement syndrome. Ethereum is doing great. It will continue to do great. Don't worry about it, dudes. There's someone out there. I don't even want to say who it is. I love him. It's come to a point where Ethereum is really bothering him, and Bitcoin's doing great too, man. So it's apples and oranges. If you have Bitcoin and you've had it for a while, it always returns to its all-time high. Ethereum is about to go through some major changes. You could say, well, those changes suck. It shouldn't be going up because that's life. It's people buy into the Ethereum hype. There's going to be a lot more hype. Don't let it get you down, people. It'll do better than Bitcoin for a tiny period of time. It isn't Bitcoin. It's not a store of value. It's totally different type of stuff. So do not become obsessed with it. And if you start following people on social media that are just bitter about it and just go down these, and are obsessed with it, just ignore them. Ignore them and get into a happier space. Okay. And, I love Udi. Udi is a guy who's so smart, and he led a lot of people down this Ethereum derangement syndrome path. So just be careful. Keep it real positive. Ethereum can do well, and Bitcoin can do well. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Ethereum isn't even trying to be that. So it's like two different worlds. Do you care what's going on Mars right now? No, you do not. can you care about what's going on Earth? So that's my thing. Keep it Bitcoin in your holdings and keep it Bitcoin in your mind. And just, let other people, they're not hurting you. They are literally people who are doing whatever that are playing with Ethereum on Uniswap. They have nothing to do with your life at all. I mean, you could say they're doing something good for your life. They're telling people about cryptocurrency. Maybe some of them will find out about Bitcoin. So that's my final thought of the day, actually. And have a strong freaking Bitcoin hand.
I just feel that you're either a Bitcoiner or you're not. You'll know if you're a Bitcoiner. And for me, it is like you go and buy, I don't know, a house or a car or something. And then the next day you see something that looks better and you think, oh, why didn't I wait? For me personally, I don't care what Ethereum does. I don't care if it flippens BTC for a period of time. It does not bother me one iota. I don't want to hold something that's got a centralized figurehead. I don't want to hold something that nobody can verify how many ETH are out there. I want to buy something that is going to be scarce, that is the one true shot at the money, changing the money, changing the world in terms of, the underlying asset. If you want to go off and do Ethereum, that's fine by me, but don't try and pull me into it. I am a Bitcoin only guy. I'm not interested in anything else. Go and do what you need to do, people. But if you're coming on my show, this is a Bitcoin only show. Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister. Thank you for jumping in last minute and saving me and putting a show together. I totally appreciate it. For those of you that were looking to hear me interviewing Lord Fisitua from the island of Tonga, unfortunately, I don't know what's happened, but he didn't come online. He is 12 hours ahead of us, so it was 6 a.m. in the morning for him. So maybe he'll reach out to me and apologise, and maybe we'll get him at a later date. But I'm telling you right now from personal experience, there is nobody I would rather have as a guest on my show than Adam Meister, aka Bitcoin Meister. Adam, thanks for being on, mate. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm the anti-flake. If somebody flakes, I'm taking their freaking place, okay? But
Ditto.
I don't like, people know it could drive you crazy. I'm sure there's a part of you going crazy right now. But hey, we're focused on the positive. Thank you much, Brian.
I'm going to leave you guys with my social media links. Thanks for being on. I'll be back on, what's today? Thursday at my normal time of 6 p.m. Cheers, Adam.